Hi again, and welcome to Plan First Live. I'm Sean Larkin, and I'm the design manager for Plan First in Auckland. This week, we're going to talk about mood boards. Now, I'm sure most of you have heard of the term mood boards. Some of you might have worked with them before, and some might not have. But whether you're a designer, a homeowner, contractors, I think, have worked with them a lot. But mood boards can be used by everyone. We're going to have a look not just at interior mood boards, interior design mood boards, although they are mostly used in the interior design space. But even if you are doing, for instance, a new build, and you can create a mood board with the products that you're going to be using. Say, for instance, you're using a specific type of cladding, you would have a sample of that cladding in the color that you're going to be using. Often we can use different colors in one design. You would have a sample of your roof sheeting. So it might not be the typical mood board that you've seen in magazines and pictures. An interior design mood board is normally on an A3 size or an A2 size board. But nevertheless, the principle of a mood board is to actually just narrow down the design style of the project. So if we have a look at it, what is the mood board? So you can really say that a mood board is not so much the planning and the layout, but more the vibe that you're trying to create, the feeling that you're trying to create for the project. So it's more an emotional tool than it is the technical layout and the floor plans themselves. And why designers use mood boards is first and foremost to align the stakeholders in the project. For instance, if it's a home renovation or a new build, sometimes the partners or the family members don't all have the same vision. So it's important to get them on the same page certainly before construction starts. But it is a good way just to narrow down that process, because the earlier you can fix your design style and your layout for that matter, the better it is, the faster you'll be able to make decisions going forward. And also, you can chop and change now before you start a construction. It's very expensive to change mid-project. And you can also keep the cohesiveness of the design style throughout the house. So you would start with a mood board for the entire home, and then you can break it down into rooms after that. So the kitchen could have its own mood board, bathroom could have its own, and the bedrooms as well. But you can keep the theme running throughout. And in reality, when you do a new build, even a small renovation, say for instance, you're doing a bathroom renovation, you'd be surprised how many decisions there are to take during that relatively small renovation project. It could be hundreds of decisions, and certainly with a new home, it would be thousands. You've got colors, you've got layout. So we don't even talk layout at this stage. That's a separate topic. But just as far as the mood board goes, design style, textures, finishes, colors, and those decisions all need to fit into your specific budgets as well. So the sooner you can make those decisions, the easier the project will be going forward. And a lot of the time, homeowners do find these projects to be extremely overwhelming. And the reality is that it's not really the build process that is overwhelming. It's more the amount of decisions and the speed with which those decisions need to be made. You can't have for instance, you can't have your plumber on site or your tile on site, and you haven't decided what fittings are going into the bathroom or what tiles you're going to be putting down. Those decisions need to be made up front. And often homeowners do start in I don't want to call it the wrong place, because there's not really a wrong place to start, but in the excitement of doing a new build or a renovation, you want to jump the gun and you want to go and buy the furniture that's going to go into the house, and you want to get the layout, as close as possible to the real thing. But really, you should just take a step back and you should decide what mood you want your home to be before you start going out and buying furniture and hiring storage space to put all that furniture, because you haven't started the build yet. So define what you want your home to feel like. It's about that emotion of what do you want it to feel like. And the earlier on you make those decisions, the easier your decisions will be down the line. If you've got a physical mood board as well, it aligns the whole project team. So the homeowners, the designer, the contractor, the trades, the suppliers, everyone should be on the same page. Just by looking at that mood board should give them a pretty good example of where that project should be heading. And you can have different feelings, but decide, do you want a calm feeling? Do you want minimalistic? Do you want coastal? Those things are all important, but you'll very quickly see when you start looking at your inspirational images. We'll get to how you create a mood board in just a minute. But a lot of the time, you would tend to be drawn to the same images. Sometimes there would be 2 or 3 styles that you can narrow down. But generally, and this is often where I don't want to call it unhappiness, but maybe the misalignment in the family members come in, because we are all individual and we do all have our own style. So rather iron out those discussions, get the answers to those questions in the beginning before you actually start with any construction or any design work and choosing selections. It does prevent misunderstandings later on. Often we say, when we do architectural drawings specifically, it's extremely important to put every single specification and instruction on those drawings, because the quantity surveyor that's going to measure those drawings, he doesn't know what the designer is thinking. And similarly, the contractor doesn't know what the designer is thinking. So unless you specify exactly what needs to happen, people get lost along the way and you end up with a product that maybe you weren't envisioning. So having that mood board is really a step in the right direction. And clarity earlier on is definitely cheaper than making changes later on, once those products have been ordered or the construction has actually taken place and you realize it's something you don't want. So instead of asking, when this is down the line, when you're actually going and choosing your selections, instead of asking, do we like this, rather ask, does it fit our vision? So does it fit with what our mood board looks like? I've said it previously, take that mood board with you when you go and do your selections, so that you can ensure that your selections are actually true to your vision. So this is an example of a mood board for a kitchen. It's one room in your house, but it has literally got hundreds of decisions. Things like, what cabinetry are you going to use? We spoke about kitchens last week, I think it was. What cabinetry are you going to use? What bench top are you going to go for? You're going to go for timber, or you're going to go for engineered stone, melamine. Just by choosing one specific material, then you've got to go and see which color do you want out of those materials. So put that mood board together so that you've got all your selections in one place. Decide what hardware you want to use. And lighting as well. Lighting is very underestimated. And we're going to talk about lighting next week. But lighting actually creates the mood of the room more than the actual materials or fittings do. So keep lighting in mind when you do your mood boards. Also have a look at how the selections that you are going to make, how do they look in different lights? You know, the warm white or cool white, the products will look different in different lighting. It's probably worthwhile getting a lighting designer to have a look at your lighting layout before you start the construction. They can give you a lot of advice regarding which lighting you should use in which setting. Bathrooms are the same thing. You need to have that consistency throughout your products. And you'll see that the bathroom mood board is very similar in tones to the kitchen. They're not exactly the same, but you can see that they definitely you would seamlessly go from one into the other. So the materials do need to talk to each other. You don't want too many different products in different colors because that does create visual noise. So try and go for the neutral undertone, which we talk about a lot, and then just if you want to go for trends, use it as easily replaceable items. So another big benefit of mood boards is they do avoid having regret later on during the project. Try not to mix too many styles. In fact, my advice would be stick to one style if you can. I know we don't always agree on having the same style. If you do have to mix more than one style, just get a little bit of professional advice on the best way to do that. Don't chase trends. We do talk about that quite a lot. And one of the biggest things I've seen in my profession that over time is rushed selections. So take the time to go and have a look at as many showrooms as you need to get that final selection, and try as best you can to have your selections in place before construction starts, because rushing your selections is where you just make, you know, decisions on the fly and they're not thought through properly, and then you end up with something which doesn't look quite right. It could have actually been a much better product at the end of the day, but because you were rushed in making the selection, it's not quite right. And also before construction starts, your thinking is slowed down. You're not under pressure to make the decisions. So take your time. Once you start spending money on the construction and it does emotionally put you under a little bit more pressure, you do feel more rushed and you do feel the pressure for sure. And again, you want everybody on the same page. So that mood board would start off with you guys looking at pictures. We'll get in a minute to how you're going to do that. But once that mood board is in place, which is before the design, the technical part of the design, the planning, sure, that can start already. But before you start the actual build or the renovation, the homeowner and the designer, you should be presenting that mood board to your suppliers and also to your contractor so that everybody's on the same page and aligned with what the vision of the home is. And it becomes a shared language within the team. Before we get to what the mood board is and how you actually create a mood board, I'm just going to have a look at some of the questions that have come in. If you guys do hear some laughter in the background, we've got induction today, so it's lunchtime. And I think they're sharing a couple of jokes in the kitchen. Nevertheless, first question we have, should my mood board reflect what I can afford now or my dream aesthetic? So don't worry too much about your budget when you are having a look at your mood board. Rather have a look at the look and feel that you want to create, because you can always refine later on based on what your budget actually is. Why can't I include all the colors that I like? We're going to talk about colors shortly, but you don't want too many colors because it's distracting and it creates visual noise. So try and keep it to a couple of neutral colors. You can add some accent colors as well. We'll have a look at the ideal in a minute. Let's take one more. This is interesting. Must I add images that I don't like? I wouldn't add images that you don't like to your mood board, but I would say it's a good idea to just have them on the side so that you can just show the designer what you absolutely don't like. So don't put it on the actual mood board, but just have it as a side note. Okay, getting back to the mood board. What does a mood board look like? So it's a combination of images, which are inspirational images that you've gone to Pinterest or you found images online. So you've really just got a picture. It's not going to be the house that you're going to be building, but it's just an image that you like. So we'll combine images that you like with physical, actual samples of products. The reason we do that is because you can't see textures in an image. You can see them, but you can't experience them. So whatever products you can get a sample of, for instance, carpets or cabinetry, go and get the actual samples so that you've got the image, but then you've also got the actual samples. Also, you could like an image of a picture which is in a different country, and you might not get that specific image, that specific product in your country where you are. So take the image to the showroom and show it to the salespeople in the showroom and let them show you what they can offer you, which is actually locally available. And then also you can put digital samples in as well. So do a combination of the actual physical product, inspirational pictures, and, then just pictures of products that you do like. So the first thing that a mood board does have it on it is colors. Very important. You'll see when you look at your inspirational images, you'll see a colored theme that goes through with each specific style. So you'd look at paint colors, accent colors, the neutral palettes, colors that are contrasting, colors that are actually in harmony with each other. Do you prefer the cool colors? Do you prefer the warm colors? Get those decisions made early on. Often, I've said this before as well, often in warmer countries, one tends to go for the cooler colors, like the whites and the light creams, ivories, pastel colors. Whereas in the cooler countries, you go for the more the warmer colors, the deep purples and navies and things like that. Secondly, your materials and your textures. So timber finishes, tile finishes, metals, fabrics. If you're going to be upholstering material, get a sample of that fabric. If you're buying new, get a sample of it. Stone, if you're going to be having, for instance, brushed nickel fittings, get a sample of that brushed nickel, put it on your mood board. You're not going to obviously put the tap on your mood board, but just put a sample of the finish that it has got. Then your furniture and decor, this is not essential. You can refine this as you go. This is more for the interior decorators. So just inspirational pictures, sofas that you like, lighting types, cabinetry, even artworks is also nice. So it just guides the style direction more than anything else. And also, if there is a specific item of furniture that you do like, and you do know what size it is, it's good to have that up front if you know you're going to be putting that in the space, because you can make sure when the designer designs the actual floor plan, he can design it in such a way that that piece of furniture will actually fit into that space. And then these are your images to capture the mood. So you can see the lighting is important as well. The images with a warm white light are very different to the images with a cool white light. So it's important to know before the time, what do you prefer? What are you wanting to gain out of that home? And what is the feeling that you want to create? So cozy versus luxury versus minimalist versus coastal. These are important to know before you start. You also do want if you are building new, you want the outside of your house to reflect the inside and vice versa. So you wouldn't have call it a Victorian exterior to your home and then have a minimalistic industrial interior. So try and just keep it flowing and integrate those two together. Then patterns and details as well. If you've got specific tiles that you want, you've seen something somewhere and you want to incorporate that, put that onto the mood board. Flooring samples we spoke about, if there are specific handles to doors that you want to use, or to your cabinetry in your kitchen, you can put them onto the mood board as well. The more information you have up front, the better. It makes your decisions a lot easier down the line. And the mood board should answer the question, how should this home feel? You should actually be able to give that mood board to somebody that you don't know and ask them who lives in this home, and they should be able to give you a pretty good idea just by looking at that mood board what the home actually would look like. And it becomes your design compass for the project, for a lot of decisions that will be made. So you start with your vision. So have a look online, collect 20 to 40 images, just images that you like. Don't overthink it. Just click on the ones that you like, put them into a folder. We'll refine it later on. So just if it speaks to you and it resonates with you, just download it and save it instinctively. Then what you'll find is when you now you've got your 40 or so images, when you start scrolling through all those images, you'll find a pattern, and you will actually do a process of elimination where you will throw out the ones that don't look quite right. And you'll notice a repetition in the ones that you've downloaded, and you will start refining your specific style more as you go through that process. Then if you have a look at colors, once you've got your inspirational images, they should have a similar color palette underlying it. So go and get sample, swabs or these little color swabs that you get from the paint shops. Go and have a look at them and choose one or two main colors. So remember that these colors won't necessarily be in the whole space, because you're going to start by doing the mood board for your entire home. So you could be using one of the colors in your living area, and the other main color could be for your bedroom or bathroom. And then you'd have 2 or 3 supporting neutrals, and I'd say not more than 1 accent color. So stick to that ratio. And don't have too many colors. The fewer colors you have, the more professional it does look. And then the textures and the materials, go to the showrooms and get samples that you can put on that mood board. Knobs for cupboards, a little bit of tiling, all those types of things. Fabrics as well is always good. Flooring, bench tops, that type of thing. So whatever you can put in as an actual physical product, so much the better, because then your decision's already made and you don't have to change later on during the project. Inspirational pictures that you would use would be things that you wouldn't go and buy up front. For instance, lighting fixtures, sofas, bench tops, although you can have a sample of a bench top. But bottom finishes and taps, that kind of thing. Have your inspirational images of that on your mood board as well. It does help you. And then you arrange your mood board. So try and put similar colors together. And don't overwhelm it. Don't put too much on that mood board. Try and have a bit of white space. It does help with just clarity when you do look at that mood board. And at the end, you should have a pretty good idea of the look. If you look at that mood board, it should give you the same feeling, the same emotion as you want to experience when your home is actually finished. So looking at this image, I think that would be a pretty good idea of, don't have less than that on your mood board, because then I don't think you've thought everything through, but also don't have too much clutter. And if it does look random when your mood board's finished, then try and refine it, remove some items, maybe rethink some of the other items. So generally, we would say remove 30% of the images, just so that you can try and refine that design language as early on as possible, and try and stick to one main style. Don't try and mix styles. It's difficult to mix styles successfully. And then do the whole house. So start with the whole house. You can always do individual mood boards for individual rooms later on by using that main mood board as your inspiration. And here you can see a very good example of a mood board on the left. That was the mood board for that specific house, and then the end result once the house was actually built. So you can see it is consistent. They did stick to the same color palettes. And I think that's a very successful end result, starting from a mood board that looked like that. Yes, and the earlier on you can make your decisions, the less stress you're going to have during the build. Building is stressful. Things do go wrong. That is just the nature of the beast. So try and just have fewer things go wrong. You'll have fewer disagreements, not only within your family, but fewer disagreements with the designer, fewer disagreements with the contractor, the suppliers. And having a clear vision up front does just create a better home at the end of the day. It's not to say that the mood board or the goal is going to be perfect design, but it's just going to be more about understanding what you're trying to create before you actually start the construction. So a couple more questions that I'm going to look at. And I've had this often in my career. Why do couples sometimes argue during mood boarding? And that is because they haven't aligned their... You need to try and take both perspectives into account. And, you know, both parties need to be accommodated in the build. Everybody is going to live there at the end of the day. But just iron out those decisions before the time. I've often had it in my career where one of the partners will look at me and say, but don't you think this is the better way to do it? And you can't take sides. As a designer, you can't take sides. It's something that they need to figure out themselves. So for the designers that are listening, my advice would be never side with one of the homeowners. You can give a professional opinion, but never tell them that one of the ideas is better than the other, because you might not be the designer the following week. All right, what else do we have? Oh, this is a good one. If my mood board looks perfect, is that always good? No, I would say it isn't, because you're not striving for perfection. You're striving for the way you live. We spoke about this previously as well. You might have chosen a high gloss finish for your kitchen and it looks great on your mood board, but in reality, you've got small children that are constantly with dirty fingers touching your cabinetry in your kitchen. So you're going to constantly be cleaning. So don't strive for perfection, just strive for something that is realistic to the way that you live, but also makes you feel really good about it. And then you're 90% of the way there. Next week's topic is going to be the magic of lighting. Probably the most underrated item in the home, I would say, if I had to pick one. It is something that often is an afterthought. Talk to Kim Monarchy. She's going to be presenting next week. She is a lighting specialist, and she's going to give very good tips and tricks and where to start with lighting and what lighting is better to use in which area of your home. But that is it for this week. We've run out of time. Contact us if you need to on our Facebook page, our Instagram, website, 0800 number. There's lots of different ways you can get hold of us. And we look forward to seeing you all next week for our lighting talk. Thank you.